Did you realize that the word no becomes more powerful after you turn 40 and you're a woman? If you're in this period of perimenopause, menopause, and you are over 40 and you notice that you're wanting to say more, you're saying, no, I don't want to, and you don't even know what comes over you, you're in the right place. For me, setting boundaries wasn't about just ending toxic patterns, it was about starting over. And what I discovered shocked me. That simple act of saying no opened up a part of myself that I had forgotten existed. Happy Monday, my beautiful people. Welcome to my channel, Unmute with Priya. I'm your host, Priya, and I help women over 40 who are in perimenopause and menopause find their voice. And that just opens up a world of infinite possibilities when you can find your voice again. Before I get started, I wanted to let you know that I am hosting my first live retreat here in Gallup, New Mexico, end of September. It is the 27th through the 29th. If you are interested, I will drop an application into the chat below and feel free to apply and I'll reach out to you directly. It will be an epic event. It's called Paradise Within, where as women, we get to return to the paradise within ourselves. So back to talking about no. Let me tell you about my journey with boundaries, why this matters so much to me personally. For months, maybe even years, I've been carrying the emotional weight from situations where I wasn't setting clear boundaries. And every time I said yes, when I meant no, it was like an energy drain. I was losing a little part of myself. And here's what I realized. I've been so conditioned to be available, to be nice, to keep doors open, to say yes, that I'd forgotten how to protect my own peace. But as I hit mid 40, something shifted. And it felt like it was overnight, but maybe it was happening gradually. Maybe it was hormones. Maybe it was wisdom. Maybe it was just me being tired of my old patterns. But I started choosing me and I started saying no more. When you do that and every time you say yes when you don't want to, if you remember that movie from the 80s, Invisible Shrinking Woman, it's like you become smaller and smaller and smaller and more invisible and invisible. And you start losing yourself and you've given your power away to others and others who don't deserve it. Now, I need to tell you something about my professional background. If you've been following me, some of you may know that I am a speech pathologist by training. For over 20 years, I've worked with children, and I've worked with children most of my career. And for the past 10 years of my career, I was working in early intervention, so birth to 3. And those children, many of them didn't have words yet, or many of them were at a place where it was concerning that they weren't talking yet. And we were literally helping them to say their first words. And you know what? One of the most important words we taught them was, whether the family, myself, everybody together, the team, no. Think about it. When a child can't communicate, they're completely powerless. They can't tell you they don't like something, they don't want something, they're done with something. So they melt down, they bite, they throw things, they have tantrums. I even see this in my dog's behavior, that my dog can't say no, but I can understand my dog's language when she's telling me no. But when that no is not respected, when I'm not hearing her say no, then I get the snarly teeth or I'll get a growl. And others have said to me, oh, she got aggressive with you. You need to stop that behavior. No, she was communicating no to me very clearly. I just wasn't listening. So that being said, how many of you clearly have communicated no in your relationships and you weren't listened to? You were dismissed. Or they said, she doesn't know. She doesn't mean it. They thought they knew what they were inside your head and they could understand what your no meant. So back to the children. When we could teach the child to say no, or even just shake their head or push something away, suddenly they had agency, they had power, and they could advocate for themselves. And there was a common theme with all the children that I worked with. We were trying to find them a way to protest, to say no. Oftentimes, when we're writing goals for them on their IEPs or their IFSPs, one of the first goals that we write is the child will use language to request, to protest, to comment. And when they're protesting, what is a common word? No. Without the ability to protest, a child would be trapped in situations they can't escape from. Think about that as an adult. How many times you didn't say no, or how many times your no was not taken seriously, and that you were trapped in a situation you couldn't get away from. The power to say no literally transformed these child's lives. And here's where it gets really messed up. What do we do when children start saying no to us? We punish them, right? Think about it. We teach them this powerful word, this tool for self-advocacy. And then the moment they use it on us, we say things like, don't you tell me no. No is not an option because I said so. Or you don't get to say no to me. People get so hurt when they hear that word no. Teach them how to say no, and then we make it bad when they say no. So this is especially true for girls, little girls, and what I've found. Boys might get in trouble for saying no, but they're also kind of admired for it. Oh, he's strong-willed. He knows what he wants. He's going to be a leader. But the little girl, oh, they're too much. They're difficult. They're so mouthy. And I heard this over and over again in my career. So slowly, as a woman, and as this channel is here to support women, we learn to swallow our no's. We learn that saying no makes people angry, that it disappoints people, that it makes us bad girls. And here's the irony. And here's the tragic irony. No was literally one of our first words. Before we could say mama or dada, clearly most of us could say no. It's one of the most natural, instinctive things humans do. Even when I was in Japan and I was watching, and this is before I went into speech therapy, I listened to the children. And before they were saying mama, dada, they were learning this word dame. Dame means no in Japanese. Even the Japanese children were doing this. But as women, we slowly lose our power to use one of our most fundamental tools for self-protection and self-advocacy. I talk about having agency. It means having control. It means that you get to decide what you want to do. You get to decide who you want to see, who's going to touch you, who's going to do anything. You have full agency. So if we're constantly saying yes to everything to make other people's happy, is it any wonder why we are exhausted by 40? Or if it's in my case, some of us had these spiritual awakenings or these episodes that really knocked some sense into us. Mine was the head injury. Other people, it could be other life transforming events. Could be a relationship ending. It could be anything. But when this piles on top of one another, year after year after year, and you stifle that no, yeah, you're going to be tired. But if you are exhausted by 40 and you're saying, I can't take this anymore, I am done. This is my time to reclaim that word, that first word that I learned. You are in the perfect place in your life. So let's talk about why this shift around saying yes and being the people pleaser and learning that I want to just say no now happens around 40. Why do some of us start remembering how to use that word we knew as toddlers? So here's what I've learned about women in perimenopause and menopause and the power of no. First, we stop caring as much about other people's expectations. Now, I love that, and I see the word caring as I have my notes up on my screen, and I think about the woman on Facebook who is trending right now because she has a WDNC. Women do not care. Yeah, and she talks to women in this phase of life, in perimenopause, in menopause, post-menopause, and literally says out loud, yeah, we don't care. We don't care. So at this time in our life, we start caring as much about the things that we put a lot of emphasis on in our lives throughout our whole lives. And seriously, these people-pleasing patterns that ruled our 20s and 30s, they start losing their death grip on you. And guess what? That's not selfishness, that's evolution. So our hormones are literally rewiring our brains. I've been reading a lot, going back to Joe Dispenza's Becoming Supernatural and talking about the energy centers in our body and the hormones and the chemicals, everything that is given off by these energy centers. So at this pivotal time in our life, our hormones are literally rewiring our brains. And declining, this is what I've learned, declining estrogen can actually make us more direct, more willing to speak up, And I have read in some articles that estrogen has been called the people-pleasing hormone because it makes us more attuned to social harmony, more likely to avoid conflict. And so as I had my labs taken in a recent OBGYN visit, my estrogen levels were way low. I started to think, okay, what is this lowered estrogen level really going to do? How is it affecting me? Yeah, there's some serious, significant physical effects that we feel in our body. Those are real. But as estrogen drops during perimenopause and menopause, we become more like we were before puberty rewired our brains for caretaking, for child rearing. We get more direct, more willing to speak up, more focused on our own needs. It's like nature saying, okay, you've spent 20 plus years taking care of everyone else. Now it's your turn to take care of yourself. Second, what happens with this time? Time brings clarity. Our priorities become crystal clear. And when you realize you have more life behind you than ahead of you, you stop wasting time on things that don't matter and are just sucking you dry. And by 40, most of us have accumulated enough life experience to recognize patterns. And we've seen this in movies before. The friend who only calls when she needs something, the family member who guilts us into things, situations that drain our energy without giving us anything back. And we start asking different questions like, how does this make me feel? Is this adding or subtracting value from my life? Would I want my daughter, my son, my niece, or nephew to accept this treatment? So you start asking these questions, and you might notice that your dynamics in your relationships start to shift, even if they are relationships you've had your whole life. And I did have, I have so many instances of this happening where I was just locked into a pattern of being the people pleaser, and had a couple of friends that I knew since childhood. And I called them my best friends. And I had another friend bring to the surface, Priya, are they really your best friend, or are they just friends that you've known the longest? And that made a huge difference on how I was seeing the dynamic, because when I looked at the dynamic, guess what was happening? I was the fall guy for this person. She could do whatever she wants, but I was the fall guy, got in trouble with her parents. And I had to just accept that. I had to bend over backwards with travel and accommodating this person. And then when I started to come into agency and started to say no, at one specific point, this friend reached out to me and wanted to come visit, but I was in a place where I had had a big transition and I needed quiet, and it was going to be too much. And I said, I don't think I can do this right now. A good friend would say, I understand. Let's figure this out another time when it's more suitable. No, instead I got a long email telling me what a horrible friend I was, and all the things that that friend was going through, and how that trumped everything that I was going through. And ultimately, a couple of years later, this friend, who was my best friend, got married. Didn't even invite me to the wedding. And even though I've let go of that, and I'm not deep into that story, I'm friends with this person still, what I came to realize is it was about this yes and no. She had been in a cycle my entire life with me of being the yes person, constantly saying yes. When I said no, man, she created a wall of resistance for me. But I kept it. I kept that wall up. I'm not going to allow you to break down my no wall. This is where I am. This is where I stand. And ultimately, we got to talking again. So the third thing, and this is a big one, we start understanding that our voices matter. Now, unmute with Priya. A lot of us as 40-year-old women went through our life not having a voice. Irony in me being a speech pathologist is I was helping others to find their voice, yet I was shut down, had absolutely no clue how to speak up. So yeah, we start understanding that our voices matter, that our comfort matters, that our needs are just as important as everyone else's. And here's the one thing about boundaries that nobody talks about. They're not walls. They're not about shutting people out. They're about tuning into what feels right for you. When we start saying no to the things that don't serve us, we're not being mean. We're finally listening to that voice inside of us that's been whispering, this doesn't feel good anymore. Women's intuition, that's just not some made up thing. We have it. Men have it too. Everybody has this source of knowing, this intuition, this deep guided wisdom that tells you yes or no, get away or lean in. And so often we are conditioned to not listen to that. Think about that. That voice has been whispering this whole time, and now it's screaming out at you. And it gets stronger after 40. And like I said, we start distinguishing between what feels wrong, what simply needs to end. And we learn the difference between speaking up for our needs and just letting things slide because it's easier. So finding your voice, the irony in all of this, the finding your voice is not about always having to speak up and always, creating a fight. No, it's that inner guidance that allows your voice to come out or allows you to say, I'm walking away. That's the real transformation, learning to trust our own inner authority. Let's talk about some of the things that we start saying no to after 40 that are funny. Because honestly, the list gets pretty entertaining. No, I'm not dyeing my hair anymore, so you can feel better about who is at your side. I was dyeing my hair forever just to make somebody feel better, that they were with somebody younger. I'm growing it out. I'm gonna probably look like a skunk for a little bit, but that's all right. No, I'm not going to wear that uncomfortable thong you like and forego my comfort for your satisfaction. Yeah, I'd rather wear my granny panties. My comfort's more important than what you like. Here's another one. No, I'm not pretending to love your friend's terrible cooking anymore, just to make you feel better. Or let alone your cooking. If it doesn't taste good, it doesn't taste good, and I'm going to tell you. No, I won't squeeze into that outfit that makes me feel like a sausage just so that I look what you think is better in photos. No, I'm not going to fake laugh at jokes that aren't even funny. And no, I will not apologize for falling asleep at 9 p.m. on a Friday night because that's when my body wants to go to sleep. So there's a whole list of these where we can just say, no, I'm not going to do this anymore. No, I'm not going to do this anymore. Come across all areas of life with different people, work, home. Understand this. I will not explain or justify why I don't want to do something. I don't want to. It's a complete sentence. So this is what freedom looks like, ladies, and it's absolutely beautiful. Here's what I want you to understand. Every single one of these seemingly small no's is actually a profound act of self-respect. You're saying my comfort matters, my preferences matter, my time matters. Most importantly, I matter, right? So how do you start? How do you start? Here are 3 concrete ways I've learned to practice the radical act of saying no. Number 1, remove or mute situations that drain you. You know how many times in my life I actually leaned into those? I knew this situation was going to drain me and cause great anxiety, yet I leaned into it. I added it to my life. This isn't about blocking toxic people. Unfollow social media accounts that make you feel bad about yourself. Leave group chats that stress you out. Stop watching news that sends you into anxiety spirals. Get out of those situations that drain you. Your mental space is precious, and guard it like your life depends on it, because it does. Number 2, start with small daily boundaries. End phone calls when you want to end them. Say, I think I need to think about this first, instead of automatically saying yes to plans. Practice disappointing people in tiny ways so you can handle the bigger moments. And don't go fixing things. If you've set a boundary, if you spoke up, if you advocated for yourself, if you put yourself first in a dynamic, in a conversation, and that person's not speaking to you for a few days, it's okay. Get comfortable with that discomfort. It's not your problem. So even try it with telemarketers. If doing that with friends is too big of a step right now, how many times is your phone getting blown up on a daily basis with unknown numbers? So telemarketer calls, no thank you, I'm not interested. You know how many times I've actually stayed on the phone and lost 30 minutes of my time because I was afraid to hang up on the telemarketer? They don't even know me. Now my common thing to say is, no thank you, I'm not interested. How about the chatty neighbor when you're in a hurry? I gotta go. Sometimes I'm not even on the phone, but I put my phone to my ear and I'm like, I'm on the phone because I know what's going to happen. Now, what about an extra commitment or somebody's trying to lock you into something, saying to come with them, even if it sounds fun? You could say that doesn't work for me. And notice I'm not saying sorry, but, or I wish I could, but just no, with kindness, with finality. That's it. No. I was thinking about my mom because this past weekend I spent the weekend with my parents, and I said to my mom, "Mom, we have the pizza oven in the garage. We should make some pizza. It's pellet stove pizza and it makes fabulous wood-fired pizza." And that's an exciting thought, right? And my mom's like, "No." That was just as immediate. No. Like I said, "Let's make pizza. That sounds great." And no. Not my response to her immediately is like, "Why are you like a petulant child, just saying no to everything without even listening?" And both of us ended up laughing. And what she was trying to say is that it's pretty hot right now. We're in New Mexico. So let's wait till it cools down. Then we can use the pellet stove to make some pizza. But automatically what came out of her was no. In the past, I would have been offended by that no, but actually this time around, I was celebrating her and really giggling inside. Use journaling to get clear. Ask yourself, what relationship or situation no longer fits who I'm becoming? Write it down. Make lists. I used to make lists because, I went through high school not really having friends. That's a whole other topic. And so then when I went off to college and I was starting brand new, I thought, wow, look, and I used to make lists of all the friends I had. I was collecting them. And then as I started to hit 40, I started to subtract and say, I don't need to talk to this person anymore. This relationship and situation no longer fits who I'm becoming. I would get into a conversation with someone that was on that list. They were talking to me as if I was somebody from 20 years ago. I was like, nope, not changing. So I said, nope, not interested in this. And I just stopped talking to them. So seeing it on paper to believe it's true is really helpful. And here's some questions to ask yourself when you're looking at these relationships. How did this make me feel? What would I rather be doing? Why did I say yes? And what am I afraid of? What am I afraid will happen if I say no? And just remember that every no to something that doesn't serve you is a yes to something that does. When you say no to something that your body is screaming no to, you're opening up that door for opportunities, people, situations to come in that you'll get a whole body yes to. So here's a challenge I want you to do. I'm calling this the 48-hour boundary challenge. So for the next 48 hours, it's 2 days, I want you to say no to one thing, just one that doesn't serve you. This might be scary for some of you. And if it's for the first time that you're saying no, it's a very scary thing. So that no could be declining a social event that you don't want to go to, not responding to a text that drains your energy, setting a boundary with a family member about a topic that you're tired of discussing. It could even be the TV's on and you don't want to watch that show anymore. Simply saying, I'm not available for that when someone asks you to do something you don't want to do. And the key is to notice how it feels. Does your body relax when you say no? Do you feel guilty at first and then relieved? Pay attention to that. And here's the exciting part. Come back and share in the comments what you said no to and how it felt. Not the details. It's okay, but the feeling. Did you feel empowered? Scared? Free? Did something happen as a result of you setting that boundary? Your stories might be exactly what someone else needs to take their step. And for those of you thinking, what if somebody gets mad at me? Let me tell you something. People who get angry at your boundaries are usually people who are benefiting from your lack of boundaries. So I ask you to question whether they need to be in your life or not. So if this episode resonated with you, if you're ready to truly reclaim your voice and stop apologizing for taking up space, then you're in the right place. Hit that subscribe button because we're going to keep going on this journey of midlife transformation. Got a beautiful life ahead of us. We need to embrace it. In order to embrace it, we also have to talk about some of the stuff that really brings us down. If you're ready to go deeper, if you want support as you navigate this season of setting boundaries, as you navigate this season of perimenopause, menopause, and speaking your truth, check out the link in my description because you don't have to figure it out alone. And if you're catching this at the tail end, I am hosting my first live retreat end of September this year, September 27th through the 29th in Gallup, New Mexico. And it is for women. It's called Paradise Within. We're going to dive deep so that by the end of that retreat, you have found the paradise within yourself. So if you're interested, application in the description and I'll get back to you. And remember, no is not mean. It's not selfish. It's sacred. And at 40 plus, it's your birthright. Go back to that little child who learned no as their first word and embrace that word. And I'll see you in the next video.